Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Estevez from HL Magazine, and we're here today to interview two top attorneys on the COVID-19 legal ramifications, P.J. Mitchell and Spencer West from Mitchell and West Attorney Law Firm in Coral Gables. What have you found are the top legal issues and how it can affect some of our local business people when they open up now? Because a lot of people are really concerned, like, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to get sued if I have a restaurant? All those things. How do you see that? Apart from
Yeah, from my perspective, in terms of my practice, which is family law, I deal with obviously people in all walks of life. So every type of job, from physicians to clerical workers to business professionals. So literally, whatever every line of work you could imagine, I've represented somebody that affected by the closures. But what I was saying is, for instance, I got a call yesterday from an old client who's been furloughed from a major company. He's worked there for many years. He's a high-ranking executive there, and he's not going to be able to meet his financial obligations, soon enough after the furlough happens. And there's going to be, millions of people, unfortunately, that are in his position, looking to figure out how they're going to not only meet their own obligations at home, but their legal obligations, whether it's paying, in my practice, alimony, child support, attorney's fees, things of that nature. It's difficult because people have, legal and financial obligations by court order, and they're going to have a difficult time meeting those obligations. So the court's going to have to figure out ways to furnish both temporary and permanent, methods in order to get them back on their feet once they are working again, which is going to be difficult.
And I think probably some of the laws will probably have to be maybe rewritten in some ways. Or
I don't know about rewritten, but I think that in family court, it's a court of equity, and they're going to be tasked with the position of giving people temporary relief that may turn into longer than temporary relief. I don't know that laws will change, but I do know that if somebody does not have the ability to pay something through their own fault at all, they're not purposely not meeting their obligations, and the court's told them that they have to by court order, or they've agreed to it, in a settlement agreement, then there's going to have to be provisions that the court's going to have to take steps to not only protect the person who has the financial obligation, but also the person, because on the flip side of that, there's somebody relying on receiving that money for child support, or receiving that money for alimony, or whatever the obligation is. And that's going to be an issue as well.
Well, the other problem is I think a lot of people, for example, the self-employed, have not been able to get in Florida unemployment. And so months into this, there's a lot of people that are just out of work with no capability of getting any help. So that's another thing. I mean, are you going to see a lot of lawsuits on the Florida unemployment for not, because they said that they were going to pass this whole thing about helping the self-employed small businesses, and it never really happens.
I would assume that there'll be lawyers that will take cases to try to help, especially small businesses and people that were affected, that weren't getting the help that they might have been entitled to by government loan or grant. It's not something that it's not part of my practice, and not something that I'd be involved in. I would imagine that you'll have plenty of those, because there's going to be people that lose their businesses and never
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure that there probably will be. What about medical malpractice? I know you guys do some of that, no?
We've had cases in the past. It's not the major crux of our practice. We do a lot of premises liability in the plaintiff's world, or negligent security cases. But we have had medical malpractice cases in the past, and it depends on which avenue you want to discuss regarding the liability. But I think what you are seeing, at least in the personal injury world, is an uptick in the cases being filed. I think that will continue at least through the rest of this year. I don't think that you'll see a balancing out of that until next year this time.
Yeah, because a lot of people in the beginning that died, that went into the hospital because they didn't have, all the masks, and the tests were false negatives, and all that stuff going on. I'm sure that at some point it's gonna be crazy, the amount of lawsuits of these families suing. No.
Well, I think what you're going to see in that uptick is nursing homes being sued.
Nursing homes,
That
right?
Nursing homes being sued. And that's a little bit different because what you would typically, the way I view it, the way I would probably craft the complaint is violations of protocols, policies, and procedures, which is a negligence count. And I would, that you will see. You do see some lawyers advertising for that now through television and through radio and some other social media avenues. So you will see those cases, but typically it'll be a 1 or 2 count complaint, which will be filed against a nursing home. And also on those nursing home cases, you have to be careful because there's no requirement that the nursing home have insurance. So if it's a mom and pop nursing home,
Okay.
then what's the actual recourse going to be? So you have to be careful and selective on any type of nursing home case, as well as medical malpractice cases. I think you will see the uptick in negligent causes of action filed against nursing homes. I mean, I can tell you, we've been contacted regarding one particular potential client, and the way that I view this particular scenario is violation of protocols, policies, and procedures. I keep going back to that because I think that would be the solid cornerstone of the complaint regarding nursing homes. What I think is more interesting and what I would explore more is suing municipalities. You would have to there's a condition precedent of giving notice when you sue a municipality under 768 Florida statute. You also have to give notice to the Florida Department of, you have to give notice to the state. And you do that by providing a notice letter. And once you do that, you meet those conditions and you lay out what the causes of actions are in that notice letter, then you can proceed against the municipality. Jail is a 5-year-old autistic little boy who was participating in an after-school program here at one of the schools in Miami-Dade County. So we filed a 5-count complaint, 3 counts against the YMCA, 2 counts against the local school board, and essentially in those counts, what we said is that they failed to provide a safe place for JL, right? So he's autistic. They have a higher duty. They were previously put on notice that this other student was quote unquote bothering them.
Right.
And what turned out is there was a sexual assault on the 5-year-old autistic little boy.
Right.
And they had noticed that another student was, he was sodomized. So, I mean, you can imagine what the mother of the little boy, because the mother had previously gone up there and advised them, hey, there's a problem with this other little boy, who, coincidentally ended up sexually assaulting him. So, we are pursuing that. We're pursuing that against it's actually the local YMCA. They're called associations throughout the United States. You have the YMCA National Council. Then they have different associations throughout the country, and it's different segments. Southeastern Division here, which would fall on the YMCA of South Florida. So that's who we sued, and we're in litigation on that. And it's a very interesting case. A lot of these cases that I do handle involve sexual assaults and or unwanted touchings as well. So it's an important case for a lot of different reasons.
Of course.
We need to get justice for this young mother. And it can affect this little boy for the rest of his life.
Well, of course, it probably already has, you know.
So,
I mean, how do you fix that? I mean, that's traumatic because it's under 7 years old. It's going to stay with him for the rest of his life.
I don't think, look, there's no amount of money in these types of cases that we handle, whether it's the wrongful death or these sexual assault cases, that can ever make someone feel whole, right? Ideally, we would never want anything like this to happen to anyone. That being said, in our system, the only way that a party can be compensated is through the economic system, essentially. Now, there may be some non-economic components that could be negotiated, such as prevention in certain cases. But you'd be surprised that some of these defendants don't want to always do that.
Wow.
So, look, we're fighting for her. We're fighting for her son, and
well, for the world, really, when you think about it, because
we don't want it to happen again. In the after-school program, it happened before. It happened before. So this isn't the first incident involving the YMCA here in South Florida that it happened. It happened before.